We're back for another Brentocast, people. Exciting stuff. I'm actually ripping this little gem from the 80s, the most machismo-filled picture from the 80s, and one of the films that when I walk by the TV and it's playing, I absolutely have to stop and watch part of it at least. And that is Roadhouse, guys, for those of you not on the Patreon video. Yeah, Roadhouse, man. Super cool movie. Been in the VHS archive for some time. Of course, I own it in Blu-ray, DVD, and on the cloud. So, you know, this is just a bit of a redundancy, but I like having the old VHS to where I can look at that if I'm in a nostalgic mood. But, guys, this weekend was, as predicted, a crazy, crazy time. Went out to the studio yesterday, arrived at probably 1:30, let the record show that I still got my Delilah time in, and we had a great evening. Had a lot of fun. Went out and had a really cool breakfast at Harmanco's yesterday morning, and then I got away from Albemarle on time and got to the studio to prepare myself to start the actually in the room sessions with the Vigil brothers. Unfortunately, they planned to go eat the late dinner about the time the studio session was supposed to start, so Nix on that. They showed up 30 minutes late, had trouble finding the place, and it's hard to predict these things. And sometimes when you're working with folks that aren't like really tuned into being in a studio, they don't realize how serious it is to show up 30 minutes late. But I did mention in a nice way, because essentially they're paying me to produce them. I mentioned, hey, please be on time next time and whatnot. But I did not. Normally, that's the kind of thing that would just throw me right off the rails. But I've really been working on myself, not being too reactionary to things like that, because you really can only control one thing in your own little universe, and that's how you react to things, or cases where you can be proactive. But you can't control people not showing up on time. And then you also can't control the level of cooperation that you get from folks. And yesterday was kind of challenging in some ways, but really fun. I love producing. I love being in the studio, and I appreciate those guys for letting me produce them. But yeah, it was a little challenging in some ways, but we had probably about maybe 4-ish hours. I had hoped for 5 hours, but we were ultimately able to do the things that we had to do. In other words, getting their vocals down on their 2 songs each. And then we tried a little stretch goal of putting them on each other's songs with some backup vocals. I should mention there's 2 brothers, Dale and Dennis, that are actually doing the singing, and Dennis's case, he did some playing as well. The playing was one of the bonus things. Like, he said he wanted to play bass, which we got that, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going to put a guitar in his hands and just let him play his version of a rhythm, and then at least he's got a little more DNA on the actual recording. And that actually turned out really, really cool. He did a neat little rhythm based on an idea I gave him, and then he had his own version of it, which guitar players always do, and that, made it just a little bit more his song. And then even I had some lead ideas for him, and then we eventually did 2 takes of that and then branched him off from that to do his own little version of a little feel in this one particular part of the song. But I know it was a little challenging for the engineer, Eddie, and the studio owner, but because we had to, we did the vocals we had to do, and then we broke and did some other things, and then came back, and that meant like a second setup. I should have been a little bit more, hey, don't unplug that mic kind of thing. But when things are moving fast, you live, you learn. I try to be as prepared as possible. But long story short, I think that we did have to, in fact, rebuild from scratch, or we will have to rebuild from scratch the 2 songs from Dale, because he has a very seemingly random, but perhaps there's a pattern that just it's so random-ish that it feels random. You know what I mean? Like Harrison's a numbers guy, and he counted things out, and I didn't see the pattern develop, but he says there's probably a pattern there, and he thinks we can build to it. So we got him performing his own song, and this way we would have never in a million years done it the way he did it, but it's his personal vision for it, and he decides that he wants it to be a folk thing instead of a produced rock and roll thing, and that's okay. That's one way to go. Now, for my money, if I were spending the money that they're spending, I would want it to be produced. This is precisely why I didn't try to tell the guys in Nashville how to play my songs. I'm like, these dudes do it every day for a living. And a little piece of advice I got from another producer right before I went in and said, "Do you mind if I give you some advice?" I said, "Please do. I'm here to learn." He said, "Stay out of their way. They do this every day." And you know what? He was right. There was one moment where I wanted to tell the drummer an idea that I had, and I realized in that moment that I was going to have to use my mouth to make drum noises because I'm not a drummer. I can't go in there and show him what I'm talking about. And I went, you know what? Let me just shut my mouth and let this guy who's a professional do it. He did it. It turned out great. And I think that's a good lesson for anybody going into a project and it being their first time working with a producer. But then again, they probably haven't recorded since the 70s, so, you know, it's just way, way different now. Back then, you did have to have a band to play through it, and I think they got like a crash course on how it's done these days if you don't have a band. But I digress. I got a brilliant musical partner. I know we'll be able to finish these songs off to a high degree. And actually, Rock and Roll, which is one of Dennis's songs, and One Look at You, I think both are kind of in that 60s-ish sounding guitar-wise, but ultimately a little more rock and roll. And I think he's going to be really happy with the results. And I'm optimistic that with Dale's songs, we will be able to flesh those out in a way that he loves later on. It's just going to be after the fact. So then we got one more. Oh, another thing. They had booked over my third studio day. So another challenge, which was one of the reasons that I kind of had to push the pace a little bit yesterday. But ultimately, I think the third day was intended as a safety day anyway. But again, you know, they don't realize how many people have to line things up to be in the studio. And they, you know, oh, well, sorry, we had this other thing scheduled. And I'm like, well, you know, I gave you this date 2 months ago. How'd that happen, you know? But, I mean, you got to roll with the punches, so to speak, and work with what you got to work with. And that's what we're doing. And I'm still optimistic this is going to be a really cool project. So I digress. Great time in the studio last night. Popped back by. I was doing a juice fast, by the way, so I had to drink like 6 or 8 of these fresh squeezed juices, and it was tough to get those in while I was in there in the studio, but I did it. And then had just a little bit of a couple of shrimp, grilled shrimp last night, and yeah, got home early, had a good night's sleep, and but right before we came home, I made a little discovery watching one of my favorite filmmaker YouTube's Film Riot, and they were doing something with the app-generated art. There's a service called midjourney.com. You can check it out, but basically it goes through Discord, and you can use prompt words to have it create art for you. You can control the dimensions, you can control the style, but it's still kind of random with your prompts, and my goodness, it is super addictive. You can create anything that you can imagine. Kim Kardashian in armor with green hair, for example, just giving you a random. You know, any celebrity face is going to be known. Basically anything that you can Google, so long as it doesn't come up as one of the banned words. Like, you know, if you start putting in like words like sexy or buxom or you know, naked, random words, porn star names, things like that. Some of those are banned, obviously, to keep it fairly PG. But anyway, you put in your prompts in this Discord window they got, and it kicks out your art. Then it gives you 4 options. You can pick one of the options. You can have it regenerated based on the same prompts. You can have it to up-res it once you get what you like, and you can download that image. I got to tell you, if I can find a way to up-res these even further, I could see myself actually using this to make art, which I would print to a canvas and hang on the wall, because some of the results are absolutely stunning. Some of them are crap, but if you keep messing with it, you're going to get something that blows your mind every time. So it's pretty awesome. You can also see what some of the more advanced people have done, and you can copy their command prompts and then customize to your liking. And I mean, some of it is absolutely photoreal. I'll give you an example here, and I'll show this. I'll show this in the video when I talk about it. But here's an sample that I run. I'm going to read you the prompt so you can kind of get the concept, and then I'll show you the actual image that is generated if I can get to it. This is a pretty fast-moving window here. So, all right, front-facing chest shot of red-haired Kim Kardashian, beautiful woman pilot in cockpit, natural, wild, show-off, precision. Photorealistic, cinematic, realistic, and there's a command for the aspect ratio, 9:16, and then a couple of other random commands about up-resing multiple times, although I think that part didn't actually work. Now I'm going to show you the image that it generated, and you'll notice in this video that darn, that is a really cool image. Like the clothing looks real. In this particular case, the hair got outside of the helmet at the very, very top. I could Photoshop that if I cared to, but that's not the point. I'm just kind of testing it right now. But anyway, it sends you a link, and once you subscribe, it's $10 a month. You can do unlimited. Otherwise, the free version is like 25. You're limited to 25 images. But wow. I am just super chuffed about the results. And I kind of got it going last night on my phone. Now I have another app that is not as good at this, and you can actually put an image in and make like a kind of a Dali-esque painting. You got like about 50 different styles you can choose, realistic or unrealistic, and it will take your photo and sort of make it the basis, but it's still kind of like super abstract. But I mean, I do that on my phone, and then when I found this, there's just a natural extension because this is so much more realistic looking and better options. And I mean, just it's amazing where this might go. We might see a time where there's a whole lot less people that can actually make a living doing this concept art because, you know, a computer can do it. But let's hope that doesn't happen. But I do like the idea that I can be cut loose on something with 5 minutes and just not so much me create it, but me design it and project manage it, and the computer creates it. I mean, I'm really you can take celebrity faces. Here's one: Charles Dance as medieval village judge. Totally photoreal. I've seen some with like people like Keanu Reeves and other celebrities where you'd be hard pressed to tell that wasn't them in some sort of makeup or a photo shoot. It's really stunning. Some smart guy had put Donald Trump as Joker. So of course I had to put Joe Biden as Joker and make a bunch of variations on that because, you know, tit for tat, right? I mean, that's the game the left plays. So what can you do, man? It's like you made me do it. But anyway, I digress. Just being silly there. Deadpool is the Queen of England. I'm looking at some of these and it's just like, what? And you can totally take off on somebody else's work too if you want. And oh man, it's a real time sucker because I sit here and like you get a start, you got to wait a few seconds for your version of it to come up, and you're like, holy crap, that's almost perfect, and then it's not. So anyway, I digress. Midjourney.com. If you're interested in some fun with art, I recommend that. The service is $10 a month, and yeah, you can make you a neat little Instagram channel with really just your sense of humor and guiding the AI to make art or whatever. But so this week is going to be crazy. It's Massage Monday. I've got 3 massages today, starting in about 30 minutes with my first one, and going to try to get down to the chiropractor about 2 o'clock because I hadn't been in about 2 months now, and it's about time. And then I'm going to try to get a few more things done for school tonight. I'm still not 100% on my assignments from last week because the week's been crazy. At the end of the day, I'm taking that class for the knowledge, not so much the grade, so I don't really have to pass, although I will pass, but I'm just saying I'm going to limit how much I stress about that because, you know, it is not that much, but when they give you IDs and passwords and stuff that don't work, then you got to take extra days. And man, it just highlights for me how busy we actually are. Like Nancy still doesn't have her login sorted, and if that doesn't get done today, she's going to go to the second class without being able to log in. So hopefully we can get that done. But that will be this evening. I got to say that Spreaker was the way to go. I can have unlimited podcasts, branded podcasts, so long as I am within my allotted bandwidth. So that won't be a problem. I've already set up the first episode of VHS Graveyard as a bonus episode, and I'm going to do the first one myself, probably over the long 5 days that we'll have at the beach, provided Delilah is in a manageable mood. So we are taking Delilah to the beach as a couple, me and Nancy and Delilah. So that's going to be interesting. I've never had her for 5 days. Just the breakdown is Nancy is not so much with the watching Delilah. I'm lucky if I can get her to watch her. I mean, I understand she works, but you know, she doesn't worry about putting her on me, which, I mean, I love spending time with her, but you know, after a couple of days, it does take some energy management. But she's such a great kid. It's just when she gets tired now as a 3-year-old, she can get a little wild. But hey, you know, the hickory switch is never far away, and I'm not afraid to use it. But she's a great little kid. I love her to death, and we're going to have a time. She's super excited about the beach. We've been talking this up for months, and now we're down to just days. We'll be leaving. We decided, I think we're going to leave on Wednesday, So by the time you hear this, we may already be at the beach, so it'll be fun. And this is a good time of the year too. I'm hopeful that everything will be super nice. The wind will make it not so hot, and where we go in North Myrtle is just really, really cool. I like it a lot. And I think we're going to go see Pirates again. I think that we can still get our seats for when we're going to go. And yeah, piratesvoyage.com if you want to check that show out. If you haven't seen that and you have small kids, man, it's amazing. In fact, we went last time, and we're going again because it was just a lot of taking care of my mom and Delilah. It was a bit much, and there was a bunch of us. So we're going to go back where we can really focus on the actual show itself, and it should be really, really fun. I'm looking forward to that. But I digress. One more day in the studio tomorrow night. It'll be a long one because we're working with Dennis's daughter, Tanika, and she's got 2 songs, and we're going to go as far as we can. But mainly it's focused, again, on getting any performance they want to do and their vocal. And then that'll be that. And we will leave after work, I guess, on Wednesday. We'll be headed down. So it'll be 4 full days and 5 nights. Then, as soon as we get back, we're supposed to be at class that night. I think we're going to be late tonight, and I may have to tell them, hey, look, if we don't show up next week, you know what happened. But, we have the book. It's really all about the book, and this is just kind of a course to get us through the book. I don't really care about the certification. It's really just for my edification. And I know Nancy wants to get the certification, but you don't even have to have this class to go take the test. So ultimately, it's just about preparing you to take that test. And these tests are all the same. They're designed to take some basic knowledge and convolute the crap out of it, charge you a bunch of money to take the test, and see if they can trick you. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's just to weed out people that don't really want to do it, and I get that. It's the same with massage therapy, but I digress. Amazing week behind and looking like an amazing week ahead. I have started watching the new Sandman series on Netflix. I recommend it highly. I would say if you're into any comic conversion to live action and you like dreams and crazy CGI, this is the show for you. And so far, the acting has really held up, and I like the story. I'm not familiar so much with the. It's about the Sandman, the guy that controls your dreams. I'm not so familiar with the comics, so for me, it's like they can't make a misstep as long as everything's quality. And so far, it has been a little bit of wokey woke in there, but not. At least it was within the context of the story and not so shoved in my face. So it wasn't the point where it really turned me completely off. So I'm happy to have a new show that I'm enjoying and can watch with some level of excitement about seeing the next episode. I'm just checking the time here, trying to adhere to that 20 minutes, my friends. Now, the VHS graveyards will be longer than 20 minutes, I should say that. Still moving in the right direction on that. Still setting up my shares, still setting up my, ripping my VHS. We've got about 90 or so in the queue right now, and then we'll start picking some of those out. The exciting thing about Spreaker is that they have an app which really, it just kind of, you just plug in your Skype and your guest Skype, and I'll be able to have guests that way. I do think I'm going to have to get another microphone that interfaces also with USB so I can use their software app, and then it'll be one step less. I won't have to make this GoPro recording for the Patreon. I'll just be able to more or less do it all on the computer. That's good and bad, because the bad side is it probably won't be as absolutely crystal clear as this Zoom, but it'll be close. And the Zoom is portable. So I am going to try to do the first ever Album on Nutrition podcast with my wife while we're at the beach, and I'm going to try to do at least one episode of Brentocast for you down there with some soundscape and stuff like that. So look forward to that. Hope you guys have a great week. I got to get to work. Y'all have a good one.